Board of Education meeting. Today is December 17th, 2018, and call this meeting to order. Do we have any veterans in the audience this evening? Would you all please stand if you're a veteran? Mr. Bailey, would you please, hey, stand up now. Would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Could we also have a moment of silence and keep in your thoughts and prayers those who are not going to be with their families during this holiday season, especially our armed forces who go out and protect us all the time. Thank you all. Moving on to the approval. Has everyone had a chance to read it? Are there any changes? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the agenda as listed.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to student and staff recognition, Ms. Margana.
Madam Chair, member of the boards, we have several student and staff recognitions tonight, but to kick us off, we're going to meet a young lady, Callie Gobin, if she would come forward, please. Callie is an East Heights Hawk, and she is our December Judges Scholar. And as we know from meeting to meeting, the Judges Scholars are chosen because of their leadership skills, because of their compassion for other students, and their great academic standards. I think Ms. Odom will come up and tell us some specific things about Callie. Well, she's coming forward. Tell us who you brought with us tonight to celebrate.
Well, I brought my mom, Christina, my sister, Peyton, and my grandma, Linda.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining this evening. Ms. Odom, tell us a little bit about Callie.
Well, first of all, Callie, we brought a big group of East Heights Hawks over here to support you tonight. So thank you to our Hawk family. John Maxwell said, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." And that's what Callie is at East Heights. She's persistent in everything she does, even when something is difficult. She takes initiative with her classwork and helping others. She's funny, and she's just a kind-hearted, great leader at East Heights, and we are very proud of her. Her fifth grade teachers and I really appreciate all she does as a leader in her classroom and in our school.
And congratulations, Callie. Could I have the parents and grandparents stand also, please? Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you. The next recognition is a teacher. We have in the Henderson County Schools the 2018 Kentucky Science Teacher of the Year, and that is Angela Marksberry from North Middle School. Ms. Marksberry, if you would come up, please, and receive a Medal of Excellence. We would appreciate that. Ms. Marksberry has been a teacher in the Henderson County Schools. This is your 10th year, I believe, and she does a lot of innovative and progressive things with her students every day, and we are honored to say that we have the Kentucky Science Teacher of the Year. Congratulations. Next, we would like to honor North Middle School as a National Beta Legacy. It is my pleasure to congratulate North Middle School. We received this information through the mail, actually. Districts will receive the notification when a school has achieved the prestigious National Beta Legacy Award. The award is given only to an elite group of schools, and that has to be established by being a beta chapter for 25, 50, or 75 years. So it's a long-standing commitment, and only at those mile markers would a school/district be recognized. So we'd like to thank North Middle School for your participation in the organization, and we hope that you will continue to be part of that elite group that is being recognized nationwide. Could I have the principal and assistant principal come and join us? Will we give you the National Beta Legacy Award? Next on our list is kind of a fun category here. We have a Colonel's Corner Bank, as many of you are aware, at Henderson County High School. And on December 10th at noon, the Colonel's Corner Bank at HCHS accepted the U.S. Presidential Service Award. This comes from the White House, and it is connected with their Junior Achievement Volunteer Service for the 2017-18 school year. So we want to recognize the Colonel's Bank, but along with that huge accomplishment, Miss Jessica Grace, if she would come forward, please, she challenged the students at Henderson County High School this year and said, if you all will raise $10,000 for Turkey of the Year, $10,000, that's a lot of money. She probably said it tongue-in-cheek. She says, if our kids will raise that much money, I will shave my head. Awesome. And as all of you know, she had to shave her head, and that $10,000 went towards 50 kids. I think you all were able to shop for. Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. It started about 5 years ago with my class said, hey, if we get to 10,000, can we shave your head? And I said, sure, because it's never happened. And these guys got to about 8 on a Monday, and in 2 hours had the rest of the $2,000 so they could shave my head. And so we had a big ceremony, and the money has gone to really good use. We've bought for about 60 kids now, and we also helped supported Winter Wishes at the high school with some of the money. Yeah, it is. I think they fulfilled Winter Wishes is any kid can put a wish, anything from a gas card to some candy to even one of them we bought for was a heart necklace for my mom so I could tell her how much I love her for Christmas. So anything, it could be anything. And we fulfilled 379 wishes this year. I think it was students. Yeah, students. And then some of the wishes were fulfilled by students themselves. I had a chance to get some off the tree. And
Yeah, Miss Grace, I called out to the high school to see if I could get a name, and they said, I'm sorry, but Colonel's Bank has taken them all. That's a good thing.
Yeah, we did. Thank you. Yep.
That is outstanding. I thought one of the neat things I saw on, I think it was 44 News early in the morning, they were doing a TV spotlight, 6:30, Colonel Corner Bank, talking about winter wishes, and somebody had wished for an Apple Watch. And cleverly, the students had bought a pretty inexpensive watch and an apple and put it in the bag and delivered it. So they did get their wish, an Apple Watch. Very clever, very clever. Well, who do you have with you, Miss Grace?
This is our CEO, Nick Clem, and one of our community service directors and branch managers, Alex Wheeler.
I'd like to recognize them with a Medal of Excellence from the Henderson County Schools. We appreciate your leadership and what you do. And congratulations on your new hairstyle. You look very good. Yes. Let's do a quick picture. Thank you all, and congratulations. The next person we'd like to recognize this evening is another state winner. We have in the Henderson County Schools the Kentucky State District Assessment Coordinator. This is Miss Kim White, if she would come and join me up here. She was, yes, congratulations. She was nominated by one of the school assessment coordinators who has watched her work and wrote about deliberately how you are very intentional and that you're a very servant leader and you take care of our schools, not just during testing, but anything that has to relate to your job and your work. And we much appreciate what you do for our schools and our students. and would like to give you a Medal of Excellence from the Henderson County Schools. Congratulations, Miss White. Next, we would like to recognize Megan Mortis. She and Cindy White, the Public Relation Department, have received the 2018 OASIS Award for Outstanding Achievement in School Information Services, and specifically the Community Engagement Program of #HCSReads. So congratulations. She has the plaque, but we don't have it with us this evening, but thank you for the work that you do and the push, and we're starting the HCSReads Winter Challenge December 20th. So.
Kryptonite to Superman.
Oh my. Next, Madam Chair and members of the board, we received a certificate from the Kentucky Center of School Safety, and this was, we are a school district who received over 3,000 pledges, which was a benchmark that the Kentucky Center School Safety set for not just students, but staff members, community members, families members, anyone in the community, board members who took the pledge against bullying during their campaign in October and November. And so we've received a nice certificate that says we're incredible, we've revealed our superheroes, and we pledge against bullying. So congratulations and thank you to anyone who took that bully pledge. Next is Building a Better Graduate. It is a new district initiative, preschool through grade 12. And if Miss Hannah Hudson from Bengate is actually sick, so we could not have her here tonight, but we have a short video clip that I think Miss Newton will try to play while I'm just talking. Is that working? Maybe? Okay. So we're highlighting Bengate's Media Center. All of our elementary, middle school, and high school media centers this year have started STEAM labs or a STEM lab. So we have innovative hubs that we have put in our schools, and we've put programming in there also for students to learn how to code, use robotics, use creative thinking and critical thinking. So this month we are highlighting Bengate, Building a Better Graduate Moment, and Miss Hannah Hudson is our media specialist. These are third grade students who have been working together, and they know how to code, and now they are working to teach the kindergarten students how to code in a collaborative setting. So they're looking at using all three of those C's. They have to communicate, they're collaborating together, and they're using critical thinking as they're learning how to code and to teach others to do that. So it's a great example of using our world-class skills, and this month's highlight comes from Bengate Elementary. Thank you. And as Ms. Baird comes forward to meet me to help present this last award, we have a board member this evening, Dr. Sally Sugg, which will be her last board meeting, and we would certainly like to recognize her. Dr. Sugg, we appreciate your leadership and your guidance, and as being a former educator, we very much appreciate you keeping us moving very progressively, and you've done that with a lot of dignity and leadership, and we want to say thank you and present you with a plaque for your service and dedication. And Ms. Baird also, I think, has a few things to say.
I think I'll start with our board members. Mike, did you have something to say?
I've had the pleasure of knowing Sally since we were in high school.
Ooh.
And I want you to know it's been an honor and a pleasure, without a doubt, since she's been the principal at 7th Street, the principal at the high school, a board member, and it's been a great experience, a pleasure, an honor, and we will miss you. And we wish you the best in everything that you're going to do from this point on. And I know you're going to do a lot. and we're going to miss you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tracy?
I just wanted to thank you for working with us all as a team and helping our schools to move forward. And I'm so jealous of what you're going to do because I know you're going to travel. So you enjoy your time, and thank you so much.
Mr. West?
I just say thank you for your support of the teachers and principals and the support staff here, and it's been a pleasure serving with you for the 2 years I've been on the board.
And I want to thank you for supporting the kids, our community, and most of all, Henderson County Schools. Phew, now we're all going to need cookies and lemonade and maybe a sandwich. That's great, though, that we've got that much recognition going on in Henderson County Schools. That's a wonderful thing. Moving on to public participation and recognition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the board this evening? Cool. Approving the minutes from the prior meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read the... Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot our student ambassadors. Student ambassadors, would you please stand up? Ms. Kate McIndoe. Thank you. Miss Sophia Palomo. Sophia, you make me feel old because I've framed pictures of you when you were a little girl, so thank you very much for that. And Sierra Duncan. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Robin, for keeping me on track, too. Now, to approve the minutes from the prior meeting, has everyone had a chance to read those, and are there any changes? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as listed.
I'll make a motion to the minutes as presented, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to reports. Spotsville Elementary. Mr. John Hagan Codell.
Really short update tonight. Past month, we've primarily been working off the punch list, performing all the owner training, gathering up the warranties, etc. Trying to get a whittled down punch list put together this week, get it out to the contractors so that they can 100% that work over Christmas break. Fully anticipate doing that. The demo of the existing school, I'm sure you've seen, is coming along pretty well. They've kind of been taking their time to this point. When school lets out Wednesday, it's really going to pick up the pace. I anticipate having the building down by Saturday evening, and then they'll primarily just be hauling debris out for the next week or so. Before school comes back in January, like I say, the building debris will be gone. We're going to be trucking in good fill material and completing that roadway around to the rear parking lot. We're going to go ahead and perform that work now. Otherwise, we'd be waiting until school lets out in the summer. So this is the best opportunity we have to get that fill placed, and then we'll be waiting for the better temperatures for the asphalt plant to open back up. So things are going pretty smoothly. I haven't had any complaints on the traffic out there. If there are any, please let us know. We just got a couple more days to get through, and then we'll get with it. So.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you, John Hagan.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Moving on to the new Jefferson Elementary School and South Middle School site improvements. Jeff?
Good evening. Good evening. All right. Okay. On behalf of Hafer, who I represent, and on behalf of the rest of the design team, Skinner Design Associates, QK4, and Hodge Design Associates, we've been looking forward to giving you an update on the progress for both the improvements to South Middle School site and also to the new Jefferson Elementary School. Just a few what I would call logistics updates of what some of the things we've been doing to let you know. The contracts have all been uploaded, and the BG1s have all been uploaded to FaxPax with KDE. The survey work has been completed. We're in the process of securing quotes for the soil boring work to help us understand what exactly we need to do from a foundation perspective. We've met with administration to talk about their standards and their preferences relative to types of materials, the types of roof systems, the types of mechanical systems, all of the components that the facilities group and the communications and data group are comfortable with, so we can learn exactly what to specify in the new school. We've also toured Spotsville, and we have learned all the great things that have been done there so that we can take the specific pieces of that are applicable to our project and learn from those. We developed a written program that is based on the KDE model school for a 400 student school. We've also are in the process of comparing that to the existing Jefferson school and their needs, and we're in the process of talking to KDE about the classroom count and also how we would use the locally determined square footage that may be allocated towards, I would say, things like the stage or the bleacher areas in the gym. So all of those things are in process. Tonight, what I'd like to do is just give you an overview of the graphics so you can begin to understand how the design is developed and certainly be able to answer any questions that you may have. So if we could start with some of the slides, I'd appreciate it. Again, just a cover slide to get us started. And the first slide that you see there is an overall view of the site that has both South Middle School in the upper quadrant to the right, and then the lower quadrant to the left is the site for New Jefferson Elementary. As you can see, the site improvements that is part of the South Middle School project, you see in the upper right, that is a new parking lot that is scheduled to go in that area to help with the overcrowding of the parking that currently occurs on the streets around the school. It will also provide an organized drop-off and pickup for parents. Then the lower level, are below that parking lot, on the right there, you will see an area that is going to be graded and approved for a playground dedicated to South Middle School students. As you begin, and that is in of itself a separate project that has its own BG designation. Then everything on the left side of that sheet is associated with the new Jefferson Elementary School. You will see first, kind of in the middle upper area, that is an improvement to the existing parking lot that is currently there. We will provide a single entrance and exit out of that parking area so that it will decrease the confusion and increase the safety of how that parking area is used. Then you will see just to the left of that, one of the entrances to the new Jefferson Elementary School. And okay, if I could get you to go back for there, one more back. Yeah, I'll stay there just for a second. You can see there's a parking lot being created up on the other side of the track. That parking lot will help alleviate the parking in the neighborhoods and also form the drive back to the new elementary school. We'll also be extending the drive along the cemetery back to the new Jefferson Elementary School, so we'll have 2 ways to get back to the school. The red kind of rectangular box there on the lower portion of the slide, that is the new Jefferson Elementary School, and you can see staff parking and event parking to the left. There is being developed a parent drop-off and pickup along the long side of that building, and then across the front you'll have bus and bus pickup and drop-off, and then during the day there will be visitor parking in the front of the school. That's an overall view of what's happening at the site. If I could get the next slide. The next slide in red, you'll see that is a simple representation of all the new vehicular circulation that occurs associated with both projects. Then the next slide begins to show some pedestrian pathways that are being created. The one that I really want to highlight is the fact that we will be creating sidewalks all the way up from Alvis back to the school, and then also along the drive along the cemetery. We'll also be extending sidewalks there, so we will have the ability for students to safely walk to the school. As we begin to talk a little bit about the school itself, we listened, we sat down and talked with administrators, and we heard what their vision was for the school. What we kept hearing over and over again is that the media center, the commons area, the space for the interactive, informal gathering space was critical for the school, for the activities that you simply saw going on with Bengate a few minutes ago. All of that makers type space, collaborative learning, that space had to be and wanted to be the heart of the school. We also wanted that space to be visible on and understandable from the exterior of the building. So as we began to look at how do we organize this school, we looked at putting that space, quote, at the front of the building where it would have prominence. Then we looked at locating the classrooms, as you would see, along the long side of the building. The middle of the building would contain the support spaces, and then the rear of the building would have cafeteria and gymnasium spaces, where the gymnasium would have access to the parking, and the cafeteria and that area of the building would have access to the playground. Administration would certainly be allocated or located toward the front of the building that would have access from both parking lots on the side and the front of the building. So as we took that diagram and transferred it and started to make it sort of a building, the next slide please, begin to see a somewhat of a floor plan. This space shows the media center / learning commons still internal. One of the comments from all of the administrators was we still need to get that space toward the front of the building. So that's one of the modifications that were made. We also said we'd like to have some type of curve or identifiable feature along the front of the building so that when you were looking at the building from either the athletic fields or all the way out on Alvis, you'd be able to see a recognizable feature for the school. We located cafeteria and gym toward the back of the building so that also they could be separated from a security fashion from the rest of the school. At night, you can have after hours activities occurring at the rear of the school and not have traffic into the rest of the school. we took that idea and then basically went ahead and developed floor plans that met the specific programs. And I'd like to show those to you, although I won't go through every single room. You see, this is a development of that idea. You see the yellow area that's labeled Media Center has been shifted toward the front of the building, and that is that Learning Commons, library, maker space, collaborative area. You'll see the administrative space in the lower left-hand corner. You'll see in the blue areas classroom spaces along the sides of the building that have views out both over the cemetery and out toward the residential areas. Then you'll see in the rear of the building a gymnasium supported with a stage area and cafeteria, kitchen area. So the floor plan begins to mimic the diagram that was developed by the administrative team. The upper level is the classroom, or the media center area is a two-story space, and you can look down into that space as you move through the second floor circulation. You have classrooms associated, or again stacked along the exterior of the building, and we have the support spaces in the middle, such as the restrooms, teacher work areas, mechanical, electrical, data closets, and all of those areas that are necessary for the school to function. Again, the gymnasium and the cafeteria spaces are taller spaces that you see at the back of the building. One more slide if I could. This begins to diagrammatically show the fact that it was very clear in our discussions that we wanted to make sure that we did not have a flat-roofed building, and we worked very hard at making sure that we created an interesting roof line. In this scenario, it is a curved roof line that is standing seam, metal roof. It also incorporates what has worked out very well for you in other schools, a mechanical mezzanine that allows you to feed the classrooms from above to work on the equipment without interrupting classes and so forth during the day. So you can see classrooms stacked on the perimeter to have exterior views and lights and service areas in the middle of the building. If I could get you to take one more. This is the beginning of the exterior of the elementary school. As you begin to see, this is a view looking at the administrative space on the lower level there at the whitish colored one-story portion of the building there. You will also see a curved roof, and you'll have a roof projection over the media center to allow everybody to understand the importance of that space. You can begin to see we've looked at some traditional materials, a lot of brick, metal roofs that are very well received and also great from a maintenance perspective. But yet we've incorporated those in what I think is a newer or modern way. We've composed those with some curves and with some shapes that are reflective of some of the 21st century thinking. And we also added a canopy that comes out and stretches over to the parent drop-off that you can see along the lane on the right-hand side of the sheet. We have a couple more views of the school that this is one of the views from ground level, looking as you arrive onto the site and a parent drop-off in the morning. This is a side view, the gymnasium on the far right-hand side, some of the stacked classroom spaces there in the middle, administrative space on the left on the first level. And then this is a view that you would be seeing from the cemetery side of the school, which is a very traditional type view in terms of materials, but again, I believe is composed in a more modern way as you begin to see the curves and some of the raised areas that indicate the functions that are happening inside. That's a summary of the work that's happened to date. We're looking forward to continuing with this design as we work with KDE to finalize some of the requirements that they have. And also we're looking at submitting the schematic design package to KDE for their formal review in the middle of January. I believe in your board packet you did receive an overall schedule relative to the planning and construction of the school. We're working with Codell as to both help us determine appropriate budgets and cost estimates, and to make sure that from a construction perspective we've allowed enough time to meet the schedules indicated. So we're excited about where we are. We feel like we've had a great collaborative process to date, and we're looking forward to developing the design.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Board members, y'all have any questions for him while he's here? Comments? Looks like a good design. I'm excited.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I just wanted to mention that I know on our board agenda also we set our January board date tonight, but as Jeff Justice and his team and our team have been talking, we may, just kind of giving you a heads up, those first few weeks, if we get good communication from Kentucky Department of Education, may need to schedule a special session during those first 2 weeks to do some sort of approval, pending on how well we're able to work with KDE before that point to get schematic designs approved to keep that timeline going. So just wanted to mention that.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Happy to do it. Thank you, Mr. Jeff. We appreciate that. We look forward to it. Moving on to East Heights Elementary School Site-Based Decision-Making Council. For the rest of y'all, instead of having one big, huge council of councils, we've chosen to split them up a couple of schools at a time. What? I get. Oh. And you all get to be first.
All right, good evening. My name is Erica Odom. I'm the principal at East Heights Elementary. This evening, I'm going to brag a little bit about East Heights. I'm going to talk about what we need to improve on, and then I'm going to introduce you to some things that we're doing to make those improvements. So I'm going to start out with a short video. I wanted to do a video for you this evening because I think it's important that you see the names and that go along with East Heights. East Heights is about relationships. We're about our mission statement, which is all means all. We will all learn and grow at high levels. We're about a community. We're about a family. We're a school that has a history of tradition and success, and we plan to get there again. As you saw on our video, our vision is to be redesignated as a blue ribbon school. That's important to us. A couple of reasons why. When you're designated as a blue ribbon school, you've achieved academic excellence and you have closed the gap for your students. And that's what we want. We want every student in our school to attain success. So I provided the board members with a handout, and I want to go over just a couple of things that are on those that were highlighted in the video. As you can see, our reading and math scores over the last couple of years have improved, but we have a definite concern in writing and social studies. We have a plan for continuing our reading and math growth, and I'll just talk about a few of those things briefly, even though we have several listed there. The first is a focus on core instruction. We're working with the continuous improvement coach from Kentucky Department of Education. Her name is Janora Anderson, and we're focusing really on our core instruction. We realize that in order for our students to be successful, they have to have that strong core. 80% of our students should reach mastery on a lesson every day. And if they're not, we realize that we need to change some of the things we're doing. So the ground zero is our teachers. They are phenomenal, and we're working to grow them where they are. Each of our grade level teams completed a core diagnostic where they looked at all of the different things about their core instruction, and they came up with what might need to grow on. They're going to receive individualized, differentiated instruction in their grade level teams to further our core instruction. In addition, we're working on student goal setting. Goal setting is part of Leader in Me. It's a part of just being John Hattie's work with visible learning and having students knowing where they're going and what they need to work on. We accomplish that by using our leadership notebooks that students are responsible for setting goals and then monitoring those. In addition, we are focusing on using high yield strategies. So again, back to Hattie's work, strategies with our students that have a high effect size. So we can't just do things that grow our students 1 year. We have to focus on areas where we can grow our students at a greater rate than normal. We've used resources from the Kentucky Department of Education, and again, our continuous improvement coach is guiding us in that direction. We have chosen to do a common reading block, which meant an adjustment to our master schedule from 8 to 10 every day at East Heights. Kindergarten through third grade students participate in reading. And so that allows us to not only move students from grade level to grade level as needed, but really have all hands on deck, as I've mentioned at other places on this sheet. So we have our PE teachers, our music teachers, everyone is in the classroom during that reading block at some point. In addition, we are using LLI interventions as we always have, and really focusing on a balanced approach to literacy, where we not only work on reading and writing, but we also do word work. So it's a balanced approach where everything is integrated. We are focusing on creating student-friendly learning targets. Again, our students need to know what's expected of them during each lesson, and then we will formatively assess them during that lesson based on the criteria that they have also been given. So they have to know what's expected, what they need to do, and how they've done by the end of the lesson. Again, when we look at reading and math, we are seeing some success. But this past year, as you can see, we had some issues with writing, social studies scores. So in order to improve in those areas, one of the first things we did, and we did this before we even knew what our scores would be, we created a writing plan, and we've looked at others in the district. We didn't just come up with this plan on our own. We used the guidance from the Kentucky Department of Education. We looked at Bingate and several other schools, and we created a writing plan. And that plan sets the expectations from kindergarten on up to 5th and allows our teachers to work in tandem every single year teaching and working on writing instruction. That includes common language, common expectations, and general strategies that are consistent throughout all grade levels. We have chosen this year to departmentalize in grades 4 and 5. And we chose to do that because we wanted to focus on not only improving our social studies scores by ensuring a protected social studies time in 4th grade, but also to capitalize on our science instruction because we've included a STEM lab. So out of our site-based allocation, we chose to have a STEM teacher every day at East Heights as a specials. In addition to specials from kindergarten through 5th grade in that STEM lab, our 4th grade students go to the STEM lab twice a week. We have encouraged collaboration. We went to our PLC Institute this summer where our staff worked intensely on becoming a collaborative culture. And in doing that, we realized as we departmentalized, the 4th grade reading teacher might be in isolation. So this year we have intentionally planned for and have completed planning with 4th and 5th grade reading and writing teachers together. Same with social studies, math, and science. So we're keeping that collaboration going. Looking to our gap groups. As you know, we're a TSI school, and we are that because of our scores with students with disabilities. Now, we've also chosen to identify African Americans as a gap group that we want to work on. We're not identified because of that group, but we want to work on that area. One of the things we're doing with students with disabilities is working on metacognitive and vocabulary instruction. As we delve further into what students need, we realize that vocabulary instruction really is a indicator of student success, so that's something we're focusing on. Also, students' ability to think about their thinking and understand what they're doing. Our expectations for our students with disabilities. We realize that as our mission statement says, all means all, and we want our students to feel that. So they're understanding and participating in our mission statement so that they realize that the expectation is the same for every student at East Heights. We've created a watch list of students where we know that fall into one of our gap groups so that teachers are intentionally targeting those students on a daily basis and providing the instruction they need. We are doing, and we have completed an accommodation buddy training session. So our instructional coach, Ms. Blythe, has trained all of our adults in the building that are going to be testing with our special education students. And that was not just a training session, but also teaching them how to coach their students to use their accommodations and to advocate for themselves. With our African American gap group, we're working on culturally responsive teaching and what that means at East Heights and what it looks like for our community. In addition, we also participate in family nights, and we're using the Persistence to Graduation or the early learning tool, and we're looking student by student to identify areas that we need intervention. In addition, our goal, and we haven't done it yet, is to start a young men's club where we have some mentors from the community come in and work with our young African American males. Culture, we realize at East Heights is really important. This year, a group of staff members came up with the plan to start flocks at East Heights. If you visited A.B. Chandler, you realize they have houses. So basically, it's groups of students, kindergarten through 5th, that meet together separately outside of their classroom time. It's kind of like Ron Clark's houses, if you're familiar with that. And this gives you a place to belong outside of your classroom. If you're a kindergartner and you see a 4th grade flock member in the hall, you'll say, they're in my flock, and the 4th grader will realize that too. You get to be with teachers that are staff members that aren't necessarily your teacher, and you may never encounter. So we do a lot of fun things with flocks. We do a flocketition, which is coming up on Wednesday, and it's basically a big competition where we participate in games and activities. Each flock this year is doing a Christmas carol, and we're having a competition on that. We also feel strongly the importance of Leader in Me in our school. It's been recognized by CASEL as one of the foremost programs for social and emotional learning, and we are going to continue to grow in that program. Building a better graduate is a focus also. During our flock times, we can bring that in as well as in our classrooms. But we can work on those 5 critical skills that we're looking for each Henderson County student to have when they graduate. Our Family Resource Center is going above and beyond, breaking down barriers. Our Family Resource Center coordinator has started a small reading group with students that are identified in our gap groups that they meet every Monday, and there may only be 4 of them, but I can tell you that each one of them comes out of there loving what they're doing and understanding reading just a little bit better. We have a strong custodial staff that's on a mission. I think Mr. Mark Walker would paint every surface in East Heights if he could, and we're gonna let him. It's looking good, and we realize that a beautiful school and a clean school is essential to grow at East Heights. So really, what I want you to get out of this presentation is that we know what we need to work on, we know we're strong as a community, and we know what focus we have. So really, you should just look for us to continue to soar as hawks.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? I know y'all are going to be working on those 2 areas that you need to get up. Is there anything that you need? We always ask you, what do you need from us to reach those goals?
I think you need to realize that it's an intentional and measured process that takes a little while. Know that we are working on it, and not everything may work, but we want to give everything that we try a chance to run its course and see what impacts it makes, rather than making changes every year.
How often is your KDE assistant coming in to help you?
Right now, she has been coming weekly. We've had a few visits, and really she'll come as often as we'd like her to. It's not a mandated thing, but it's something we're really excited about in working with her.
Appreciate you taking that opportunity to contact them and bring them in. That's a good thing. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Ms. Odom, as you're heading back to your seat, could I have this East Heights staff that came tonight to support her presentation stand, please, and be recognized? There is no doubt that our East Heights Hawks do not soar and will continue to soar. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you, Ms. Odom.
Moving on to Bengate Elementary. Ms. Harmon?
Good evening. Many of my staff are home in bed with the flu. I have half.
They will be there tomorrow.
Most will be there tomorrow, that's right. But I do have a very limited amount of people here to support us. But I am grateful for the people that did come forward. We do have on our SBDM committee Casey Carter, who is our 3rd grade teacher, Lisa Jones, who is a parent on our SBDM committee, and we also brought along our instructional coach because we did not have a full representation. So, we obviously have a cover slide because presentation without that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about our strength, and our strength is sort of a mixed bag for us. 2 years ago, almost exactly, the leadership team at Bengate, and primarily our instructional coach, myself and Mr. Stanley, were trying to determine why we were having so much trouble moving ahead our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in reading. And so we talked a lot about it, and I used to be a reading coach in a district before here, and one day our instructional coach said, let's just try to do some fluency checks in primary, and let's see what we find. And that was 2 years ago in December. And we did some fluency checks in kindergarten and 1st grade, and when we came back, we said, okay, what did you see? And we saw very clearly that we needed a stronger foundational base in reading at Bengate Elementary. So we talked about it a long time and said, and we think that if this happens, and if we pour our resources into K-1-2 to build a strong reading foundation, we may take a dip in K-Prep scores. And are we willing to risk that? And we thought that the payoff would be worth the risk, and we are glad that we've done that. That said, teachers were not doing anything wrong. They were just simply following the basal. And many of our students come to us without the proper lap time, reading time at home that they needed to have. So foundational reading skills were not something that was going to come to them as easily as other kids in some circumstances. So it's a mixed blessing. We think that we're building a strong foundational reading base for our kids, but it comes at some sacrifice at K-Prep scores. But if you look in the fall of 17-18 and you follow the colors along, the yellow kindergartners were at 60% on or above grade level in reading in kindergarten. That same group this year started out 66% on or above grade level. Now in the first grade, they were at 69% on or above grade level. But if you go to the second grade, this looks like a dip, and it obviously is a dip, but this is a much different test than we've ever done on MAP before in second grade. This was something our teachers chose to do in second grade. They actually went with a 2 through 5 test instead of the other tests. Yes, this test presumes that students have already been exposed to all grade level standards in second grade, which is just not the case. So we fully expect our winter second grade score and especially our spring second grade score to jump quite a bit. If you look from second grade fall last year, that same group was at 49%. If you look this year, they were at 61% above or beyond, or above grade level, at or above grade level in the third grade. So that's a huge jump. Look from third to fourth, 51% to 59%. Fourth to fifth, 46% to 52%. So we are seeing the benefit of the early foundational push. It's still a struggle. Obviously, we have holes in fourth and fifth still that we have not filled yet because the focus has been on early primary, but we are seeing the roll up. I asked Mrs. Carter earlier what she saw as a third grade teacher. Do you want to sort of mention what, I know that I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it is impactful.
Classroom of those students. We had at least 24 to 26 of those in that group last year, and I'm down to 12 already at this point in the year. So already we're seeing a difference in those coming in to third grade, not being prepared. And then out of those kids that I have, half of them are new to Bengate just this year. So, and they're coming in at least 1 to 1.5 grade levels behind. So,
thank you. And so we are seeing the benefit at third grade. So we expect our K-Prep scores to be getting stronger and stronger. So if you'll go to the next, I'm sorry. Of course.
So of these kindergarten kids that are in that 42%, do you happen to, do you
kindergarten?
The kindergarten 42% on 18-19, the white?
Yes,
the white
I'm
box.
sorry.
Okay. Do you know or have a feel for how many of those kids are coming through Thelma B. Johnson? Or
I don't
none,
right off
or
the
none?
top of my head, no.
None of them.
Oh, some did, yes.
Some.
Okay. Some, yeah. So, but I couldn't tell you exactly how many.
Okay.
I could
That's fine.
find out.
That's fine.
If you go to the next slide, Ms. Newton, please. We're seeing this benefit. If you look, I went primarily with our first, second, and third grade. This is more STAR. This is reading growth still. We're talking about reading because we all know that reading is the basis of everything that we do academically. So we do a STAR reading test at the beginning of the year and every 9 weeks thereafter. And if you look at our STAR reading, this is with our early push now. The first 9 weeks, our first graders, STAR is just a different assessment. 48% were on or above grade level. If you look now at the second 9 weeks, we're up to 62%. Second grade, 49% the first 9 weeks, we're up to 63%. Now, and I think that I skipped down there, but third grade is 48%, we're 48%, and they are now at 57%. So we are seeing growth in reading, and we think that where our belief is that will serve our students very, very well, both in their lives and also at K-Prep testing. So some of our other strengths at Bengate, we do have a collaborative learning culture at Bengate. We have almost half of our staff have been to a professional learning community training. We've been at PLC training. We are very, very open with our data. Our grade level meetings are very collaborative. We discuss everything. Our social studies scores, even though they weren't stellar, for us, we were in the top half of the Henderson County. So many schools struggled with our social studies scores, and we felt very solid with our 61.7% proficient and distinguished in our social studies scores. Our writing scores dropped. In the district, they dropped. Ben Gates did too, but our writing scores were third among the elementary schools. So I feel like we have a strong writing base in our 5th grade. Our win time, that is what Ms. Carter was talking about. It's what I need. It's differentiated very clearly. We deal with students who are having difficulty, but we've also recently done a schedule change so that we make sure that our high kids who tend to be just with the flow, we're pulling them out and doing some enrichment, very specific enrichment in reading and math. We've created some after-school groups. Of our 4th and 5th grade kids who are near proficiency, we have 2 teachers staying after school, and we're targeting them in reading and math. Those same students during the day are given additional intervention with teachers who they sort of have a preference for. Many of them are our intervention teachers, and they're essentially mentoring kids because when we looked to name and claim our kids, we found many of our kids we felt should not have been novice. A lot of it was a motivational thing, and they just don't seem to understand the importance of that. So we are giving them some extra test-taking strategies and just some TLC during the day. Those are kids who we feel very strongly should not have been apprentice. They could have easily gone to proficient. So, and I said novice, but I meant near proficiency. Now let's talk about our challenges. Ms. Newton, if you would move ahead. We are a TSI school, again, in special education. That is our struggle. We have tried to close that gap, and we are still trying. It's a challenge for sure. We need, overall at our school, 23% of our kids have an IEP. 23%, that's a lot. Now, some of those are speech-only kids, speech and language kids in the primary grades. That's not such a problem because we know that they will remediate and then move out. But when you look into our 4th grade, 19% of those kids, and these are tested grades, have IEPs. In the 5th grade, 23% of our kids have IEPs, and none of those are speech and language only kids. So we have a large percentage in this current tested grade of IEP kids, hence the struggle to close the gap. 21% of our current 5th graders also have prescribed meds for ADHD. So we have a very challenging pocket of kids, but we've done some really specific things to address those needs. We have looked at we've combed through every IEP in our building at this point, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And we have looked at every LRE, least restrictive environment recommendation, and also the minutes. We revised the master schedule so that our students with IEPs, their teachers have, what we've done is we've moved every teacher around so that every teacher now has collaborative time with the grade level team that they're working with, because until we get to a blend of resource time and co-teaching, we feel like that we're just sort of treading water. We've got to get beyond that. So our special ed teachers now collaborate with the grade level planning teams during planning time. That's right. And in addition to that, we've carved out some time for the 5th grade special ed teacher to co-teach as well. It's not necessarily minutes on the IEP, but it is a service that we think will serve our special education students very well. So we've just actually created the schedules ourselves, and with the input of our lead special ed teacher in the building. So that has happened in the last month. We started that in early November, so that's well underway at this point. One of our other challenges, and it's not specific to Bengate, is transients. And we know that that's a problem throughout the district, but this particular group of 5th grade students is a particular challenge here because only 49% of those kids have been with us since kindergarten. That is a huge issue for us when kids come into us, particularly in intermediate grades that are 1 or 2 or 3 grade levels behind. It's very, very tough. When we get them early, it's not such a challenge because we have time to catch them up. But when we get kids in tested grades that are that far behind, it's really, really tough. But
may I ask one question?
Yes.
When you say transient, would you kind of
moving in and
that from within the district or outside of the district?
We both. We at Bengate seem to have a lot that come from Evansville these days. This year, we've seen a lot from Evansville, but we see from everywhere. We get a lot of kids. Our ELL population has doubled this year. Those are our English language learners have doubled at Bengate. Another possible challenge. We don't know yet. But most of those kids are younger kids, so we're not as concerned about those because if we get them early, we'll catch them up. It's very, very challenging to catch up students who come to us that far behind. When we have them from pretty much everywhere.
My only alarming consideration would be if we're identified the transients as those that were coming within the district and they're that far behind, I would be concerned. But if we're talking more and have defined them more as coming from outside of the district, I can appreciate that.
It is both, but the kids that are transient within district, unfortunately, are kids that seem to hop from school to school to school to school, so they really never get to settle in very well, is what I see. Well, you're exactly right.
You defined what I wanted. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So to address these challenges, we too, we knew that we would probably take a dip at K-Prep, especially with our special ed population. So we reached out to Janora Anderson, the Cte Continuous Improvement Coach, in September. So she's been working with us for quite a while. She's already met 3 times with our grade level meetings, and we too are focusing on Tier 1 core instruction so that we can make sure that every student gets what they need. She has sort of given us a mind shift and refocused us on the fact that all students need to master 80% of the learning target for the lesson. And we have a learning trajectory that we have to meet, and that learning target is just that first chunk in that learning trajectory. So we're sort of shifting our minds and going away from the learning objective for the day to a learning target for the lesson. We're doing more and more formative assessments. Our leadership team has actually been scoring some of our formative assessments, which has been interesting and enlightening for us. Myself, I haven't scored anything for quite a while, so it's been an experience for me. We've analyzed every single IEP and LRE for our minutes and our settings. We've revised every special ed schedule, as I've told you, and we are doing ongoing professional learning in our grade level meetings. We are working on a Fountas and Pinnell book. We are also working on worthwhile lessons, rigor and trajectories, learning targets. So our math scores too have been a challenge for us. They did drop this year, and as a result, we had our math committee create a school-wide math plan, and our school-wide math plan lines out what every grade level should accomplish that year, and then we also have an accountability folder that we've put in Google where each grade level is required to upload information monthly, and then the leadership team analyzes that with grade level teams. So that is a change for us, and we adjusted our master schedule to make sure that every single minute of our math time was used optimally. What we would find is when you put a math block up to the end of recess, that was an easy time to shave off a minute or two. We don't want to do that. We need to make sure that we use every single minute. So let's talk about some things that we're pretty proud of. And we're very proud of our school. Very, very proud of our school. We have a wonderful culture. We have a very supportive community of family members. Our STLP club is a current state champ. Mrs. Carter is one of the coaches of that. So we're very, very proud of that. And they've again qualified at regionals to go to state again. So we're looking forward to that. Not sure how many of you checked out our link, but our STLP club created a video that highlighted our Polar Express night and communicated to the community about all the details. Our Facebook page is followed by quite a few family members. We are pretty proud of the communication that we put out on our Facebook page. Our PTA membership is currently 100 members strong. That's huge. In 2014-15, we probably had about 7 members. And the same people were doing all the work. So our PTA has held 2 fall festivals, some Paragon fundraisers, a spring fling. Their presence is visible in our building, and we are very proud of that. They've also received a growth award. Was that last year, Ms. Jones? Last year, they've received a state growth award, so we're super proud of our PTA. Another thing that we're very proud of, and we've talked about this for a couple of years, is really creating a reading culture at Bengate, and I think we finally sort of tipped the scale. At this point in time, it took a very long time for us to get our kids on board with Accelerated Reader, but at this point, I just looked last week, 75% of our kids in our whole school are on track to meet their reading goals. So we are so proud of our kids for that. It's not been without a lot of angst, but we have managed to do that. Family nights are very, very well attended. Our Polar Express night last week had almost 400 people come to our Polar Express, and Mrs. Stanley came, and we all had some burgoo and some wonderful hot chocolate. It was a great night. Our STEAM lab, you've already had a little presentation about that today, but we have worked very hard to create a space that's conducive to critical thinking and collaboration, but also just to reading and being cozy and just embracing the love of reading. We've also created a little reading room. I don't have a picture of that we're in the process of making cozy for our kids so they have a place to go and read. We have an after-school homework club. We have ESS help after school. So we're trying very, very hard to keep our kids where they need to be. So that concludes my presentation. Do we have any questions? Anything I can answer? Yes.
You said you've got a state assistant coming in there and helping with you. Is there a state assistant that specializes in the special ed and the special needs? Because
she was a special education teacher, and that was one of the first things that I asked. What's your record? I wanted to know, what has been your experience in moving kids?
Focus, right.
Yes, and she has moved solidly at the high school level kids from novice and apprentice to proficiency. Okay. And so that was one of the very first things I had her discuss with our staff, because I needed somebody that had a proven track record, and she is a special educator herself.
Good.
So yeah, she's
good, because that's one of your biggest
exactly
challenges right there. So you need someone who can specialize.
Exactly.
That's a good idea. Good, thank you. No, I did not know that.
In a prior life.
Former life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Any other questions or comments, anyone?
All right, thank you.
Deborah, appreciate it. Moving on to Henderson County High School, Mr. Chad.
Good evening. Before I get started, I want to introduce some people that are with me this evening. First, I want to start with our site-based members. First, we have Mr. Bob Sexton. He teaches math, teaches geometry specifically at Henderson County High School. Then Mr. Holstein, he teaches special ed at Henderson County High School. Then we have, they all teach at Henderson County High School, I'll stop telling that. Mr. Klaus, he teaches chemistry and AP chemistry and also dual credit chemistry. Then Miss Amber Thomas, she's not on site-based, but we're just kind of going down the road. She is Assistant Principal Student Services. Then Mr. Berkins is Parent Representative, Henderson County High School site-based. Then Miss Seitz, Blue Unit Principal, Henderson County. And then Miss Amanda Lacer, Principal of CTE. And then Miss Dawn Kelsey, she is parent on site-based. Then Mr. Scotty Martin, Red Unit Principal. And then Mr. Matt Richardson, Green Unit Principal at the high school. All right. I did not prepare a PowerPoint. I'm not a PowerPoint type of person. I really kind of like numbers and data. I did provide you with one picture, but it speaks volumes. And we'll get to that piece here in just a moment. But I would be more than happy to give you what I have typed up and ready at the end or tomorrow if you need. Three things we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about our strengths, our challenges, and then also our successes. Strengths at Henderson County High School are numerous. Speaking in terms of ACT and test data, all areas are above the state average on the ACT. African American populations increased their average composite on the ACT from 15.8 to 17.5 in 2018. Two or more races increased from 18.7 to 20 on their composite on the ACT. K-Prep on-demand writing reduced novice by 1.5% and increased distinguished by 7.7%. We reduced our novice rate in African Americans on the on-demand assessment by 16.9%. Reduced our novice rates on on-demand assessment by 1% for free and reduced students. And those are just kind of the crux of some of the numbers from the ACT. But other things and other places that we are really strong in, first I want to say thank you for your investment into technology. We have successfully, without flaw, with help from you, from help our technology, from help of teachers, rolled out over 2,000 Chromebooks in about 3 days' time, in about week number 2 at Henderson. Actually, it was week number 1 at Henderson County High School. That is an absolute feat to get done. But that would not do what? Correct. Some districts would, it's 2,000. But with your determination, your help, putting that forward, seeing the future, and knowing where we're headed, that's a huge piece for us. Some AP data for you. In 2018, 437 students took a total of 776 AP exams. To give you a comparison, 10 years ago in 2008, 133 students took 228 exams. Of the 437 that took exams, 239 students made qualifying scores. 56% of Henderson County High Schools taking AP exams made qualifying scores, compared to 53% of the students who took AP exams in the state of Kentucky. Globally, 61% of AP students made qualifying score. In 2018, there were 437 students qualifying out of 776 exams for 56%. In 2008, 101 qualifying scores out of 228 exams for a 44% pass rate. In 2018, 114 free and reduced lunch students took 181 exams and qualified and made 86 qualifying scores for a qualifying rate of 48%. In 2007, free and reduced students took 17 exams with 6 qualifying scores for a 35% qualifying rate. So if you think about that, where we've come, 2007, we only had 17 exams taken by free and reduced students. This year we had 114. 2018, 113 exams were taken by non-white minority students, including Asians, with 57 qualifying scores for a 50.4 qualifying rate per exam. In 2007, minority groups took 7 exams with 4 qualifying scores with a 57% qualifying rate. That is impressive. In 2018, 19.6 of the total qualifying scores were by free and reduced students. Also in 2018, 13% of the total qualifying scores were by non-white minority students, including Asians. Also, we had a first in terms of AP last year. Henderson County High School is one of 16 schools in the state of Kentucky to offer the AP capstone program, and only one of 1,500 nationwide. In 2018, we had the first capstone class, and in order to receive that capstone diploma, you have to qualify with a 3 or better in your seminar course, your AP seminar, a 3 or better in your AP research, plus you have to have 4 qualifying scores of a 3 or better on 4 AP exams. 9 students received the AP capstone diploma recognized by the College Board. We had 2 students that took seminar and research and received certificates. So, since it is so new, we did not have the comparison rates globally and through the state of Kentucky when we received all those. But to have 9 students, that's 6 AP courses that they got qualifying scores. And I have not equated that into actual savings in college, but it's going to be in the tens of thousands of dollars from taking those courses at Henderson County High School. Some CTE data for strengths. CTE certifications in 2015-16, we had 6 pathways certifications. 18-19, we have 16 this year. CTE currently has 3 apprentices in the machine tool apprenticeship program. Last year, 68% of the CTE students were career ready. 469 CTE students are currently taking dual credit in a CTE course. 205 students earned the Work Seal Certificate in 17-18. We have 195 students currently in work-based learning programs. 43 are co-op and are earning $5,453 per week. One of the other things that go back to the picture that I did submit, because it speaks mounds to the culture at Henderson School. One of the things that my goal was to bring back that Henderson County pride. In order to make that relationship and make that tie stronger to high school, because we all have great things, great memories that go back to high school. I wanted to make sure that we brought that pride back in everything that we do. And what you can see is each year we do a class color day. The top picture was 3 years ago. That was the participation in class color day. Last year, you can see the participation in class color day. This year is the bottom slide. You can see the participation in class color day. So that is one of our goals at Henderson County High School to improve the culture, is to make sure that we are building that culture to build great kernels and build pride in the high school. So I really can't say any more than it speaks for itself. We do have a lot of challenges ahead of us. Henderson County High School is a TSI school with students in ELL. We are ELL TSI because we had 3 ELL students test novice on the 2018 reading ACT. We're TSI because of our disability students did not meet the graduation rate of 85%, and it's because of our alternate assessment students are counted in the graduation rate. If we were to pull those students out, we would be at a 90% graduation rate for disability. We also know that we have work to do around proficiency in reading and math. We do feel like we have a solid plan to address those issues. One aspect of that plan is scaling up our classroom assessment processes through learning about the implementation of learning target theory of action and that grounds the formative walkthrough process. The newest challenge are our graduation requirements, and we will address those with you shortly in this meeting. Some things also that I want to highlight about Henderson County High School. Number one, everything that we've talked about and everything that we're going to do in the future is not without the great staff that we have at Henderson County High School. I just happen to sit in one chair, and that chair leads the school, but you have to have people pushing the school. And we have great faculty and staff every single day pushing our kids to be better and do great things. We have 10 national board certified teachers on staff at Henderson County High School, with several working towards their certification. Once again, the Chromebook rollout, thanks to you, I think is driving our instruction a little differently. It's getting some creativity with our teachers and also our students. 73 students currently in our CTE program are working in school-based enterprises. 79 are working in internship enterprises. You've seen tonight Colonel Corner Bank. They raised over $10,000 to help with Christmas, and that goes to the heart of our students. They spearheaded it, but all that money was raised by our students. Also, FBLA helped raise $25,000 for Terror on the Trail to help local families. Also, as we've all been affected by cancer at some point in our life, we were affected greatly last week by the passing of one of our own. It was a tragic event for Henderson County High School, but I am here to testify to you. We had mounds of support a week ago today walking in that building of professionals that are trained in grief counseling. But I'm here to tell you, our students did not want to come out of their classroom. And there's a reason behind that. I'm about relationships with people. and relationships with our kids. You build a relationship, you can get anybody to do anything, anytime. Our students did not want to come out of their classroom with their teachers and their friends. They wanted to grieve as a group. They did not want to go and sit with someone that they didn't have a relationship with. So I'm extremely proud of our student body. We had mounds of help. We had people that are trained in grief counseling. But our teachers do such a wonderful job every single day in building relationships and getting our kids to do things that they don't want to do, but they will do because they love their teacher and they love the high school. So it's because of our teachers. Also, our students are so wonderful, they've raised over $4,000 in order to help those families in need. Also, CTE is working to create videos for all of their programs to provide virtual reality tours for all of our students, parents, and community members, and we're bringing community organizations and members in every day to make sure that they're aware of the opportunities that we can provide. Health Services certified students to be Teen Cert. We had multiple students last year. If we ever get into a disaster emergency type, which I hope we never do, we have a lot of students that are available to help. Carpentry students will be completing their duplex, hopefully very soon. Okay. HCC has saved 10 spots for our SRNA students to enroll directly into their nursing program. You don't have to take the undergrad, what we would think the undergrad, they go directly in to their nursing program. CTE is partnering with machining businesses to bring adult ed apprenticeship programs back, and we have currently Machine Tool is offering adult ed in our building at night. The early college program that we partnership with HCC and MCC, which is Henderson Community College and Madisonville Community College. Currently, HCC, they have earned a total number of credits of 577. The class of 2018, the class that just graduated, we graduated 13 students with an average GPA of 3.42. The current class of 2019 at HCC, we have 6 second-year students with an average GPA of 3.63, and they will earn their associate's degree in May along with a high school diploma. The class of 2020 HCC, which is 11 current juniors, they are first-year students. They will be earning their associate's degree in May of 2020 along with their high school diploma. I do not have a GPA on them yet. The semester just ended. The class of 2019, these are with MCC. We currently have 10 seniors and their first-year students that are involved with MCC, and I do not have that GPA because the semester just ended. Currently, in terms of dual credit, CTE dual credits offered, or actually last year were 469, and Gen Ed credits were 160. We've had several national merit finalists and also award winners of national merit. Building and Better Graduate, as we go through, we are working diligently in implementing all of the key areas of building a better graduate because we realize that we are the end stop for that. When they take those last 8 steps, that is our job, not as a school, but also as a district to make sure they're prepared. We could go on about the academic team. This year, they're already off to a great start. They've won the UK Fall Tournament, the JV Challenge. DJ Banks is ranked in the top 50 in the nation. Harrison Jenkins, top in literature recall, and is one of the top in the country also. We've started our 21st Century program again. We have been without it 3 years, I think. We reapplied for the grant, currently have the grant. We have an average of 45 students per day for the program, 41 regulars. They participated and set a world record all across the nation for the most stacking of cups in one day. Believe it or not, they helped set the world record. I didn't know that was one thing, but they actually have professional cups. Also, they are venturing out into the new area of flying drones every Monday afternoon. Do not go through the main lobby. I will warn you, the kids will chase you with a drone because they do me every Monday afternoon. They will chase you with a drone. But we have partnered with local hobby shops, and they come in and they do drone flying. The West Kentucky Work Seal, last year we had 205 seniors earn the HCHS West Kentucky Work Ethic Seal. That means no more than 2 unexcused events or either tardies or absences, a GPA of 2.0 or above, no major discipline issues, and you must have 2 or more activities your senior year. We've had multiple state organizational awards, and you could go on and on and on. But some of the things that we do that are most important outside of the state awards that we receive are our ICE awards at the end of the year. If you've never been and participated in our ICE awards, I encourage you to. Each year at the end of the year, we always pick those students that would never get recognized but make an impact on us as adults and give them awards at the end of the year. We have turnaround awards. We're getting ready to have one January 4th, I think, when we get back. That's wrapped around students that have made a difference or made a turnaround either academically or behaviorally each 9 weeks. Also, on November the 6th, every kid counts. If you walked into the cafeteria, you saw every single student's name all over the cafeteria. We picked them out, one positive thing about each student. And each student in there got one positive comment at least, and we will be handing those out the remainder of the year. So, there's a lot of things that are great at Henderson County High School. There's a lot of things that we've got to work on, but I can tell you we are facing them head on, and we're going to tackle our challenges. Questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever you speak to the degrees and things that the students are earning from the community college,
Yes, ma'am.
and through different paths, we talk about that a lot, but until you actually experience that and you have a person that has done that, my to-be daughter-in-law is going to graduate from Murray State University with a degree in just a little over 2 years because she graduated from Henderson County High School.
Correct.
That, to me, as a mom, is huge. And if you're a student that's paying for your own education, to have a bachelor's degree from a major university in just a little over 2 years is ginormous.
Correct.
So thank you, Henderson County High School.
Thank you.
And thank you for the mid-inning stretch, too. Moving on to old business. New graduation requirement and transition readiness. You're back. And you have Joe to help.
Hi again. Who am I? I'm Chad Thompson. I'm the principal of Henderson County High School, along with my sidekick, Miss Jo Swanson, assistant superintendent at Henderson County Schools. One of the things that we have been challenged with for about the last 2 months is the commissioner and the Kentucky State Board of Education have brought about some new graduation requirements that will begin next year with the freshman class. Now, I want to preface this by saying this. We've had a first reading and a second reading of the board, and they have changed from the first reading to the second reading. They are still going to have to go in front of a legislative review this spring. So we have a great plan that we want to present to you tonight that's really, that I feel is progressive and is going to get all of our students there. But just know this may not be the plan. There may be a different plan we have to come up with once the legislators, Yes, Troll. Yeah, it's fluid. All right. It may be fluid as we speak right now. Who knows? So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Joe Swanson. You want to take it away, or?
Well, first of all, know that within your documents that what Mr. Thompson and I are going to focus on will mainly be transition readiness and graduation requirements as our plan, not only for Henderson County High School but also for Central Academy. So, but there are additional requirements which you can get the gist of as you read that Kentucky Board of Education document, a news release from December 5th, which also includes some discussion there about state assessments, the requirement for graduation for students to demonstrate basic competency in reading and math in 3 different ways. However, transition, if you scroll down a little bit more, you will see that the transition readiness component is what Mr. Thompson and others and I have worked on to be prepared as Henderson County for our students, because you see now, today in Henderson County and in all years past, including years that you went to high school, to take high school courses and to pass those courses with success meant that you would be deemed a graduate of Henderson County High School. So now that's what's changing. You not only must pass courses at Henderson County High School and Central Academy, but you may also, there are other requirements in order to graduate. And that's what we're going to talk with you about. Now, you can see those if you scroll down to the paragraph that says well, you're kind of on a different, you're where our plan is, but you were given information that kind of, and it's that information that you were given, that's what I'm talking about, where it says, under the revised proposal, students entering high school will have graduation prerequisites. That mainly has to do with the assessment, and graduation qualifiers. So we're going to tell you about the plan for Henderson County High School. Mr. Thompson will do that, and then I will give you the plan for transition readiness and graduation requirements and how we will accomplish those. These are the plans for right now.
For right now, exactly. In collaboration with Ms. Swanson, Mr. Steiner, Ms. Stanley, Ms. Farmer, Mr. Black, and also Ms. Thompson over at Central Academy, we have laid out a combination of ways that you can become graduation and transition readiness. Like Ms. Swanson stated, our focus is transition readiness. That is what's right for our students in preparing them. We don't just want to graduate them. We want to make sure that we prepare them. And if you'll look at the document that's up on the screen, you will notice that there is one that you'll see a plus sign, and then you will see a hashtag. The plus sign denotes that it is a way at HCHS to become transition ready and graduation ready. If you see the hashtag, that also means that at Central Academy you can become graduation and transition ready. So if you just see one of those, 2 of those symbols, then that is a pathway that we only have at one of those schools. So, academic readiness plan. Number 1, you'll see some common language in here. But if a student progresses through high school and meets the 10th grade testing requirements at the college readiness benchmarks on the ACT, either the sophomore year or the junior year, then they are to be considered graduation and transition ready. And that is also available at both Central Academy and Henderson County High School, and they will qualify through the ACT meeting the benchmarks. The second option for academic readiness plan is students complete 2 or more advanced placement courses and receive a score of 3 or higher on each AP assessment. Central Academy currently does not offer AP courses or exams, and that one is one of the options at Henderson County High School that you can become transition and graduation ready.
So on career readiness pathways, these are ways that student can demonstrate career readiness. The first one, career readiness number 1, you can see it's a plus sign. That means, like Mr. Thompson said, that it's denoted at Henderson County High School only. If a student progresses through the high school, meets the 10th grade testing requirements, takes an industry exam, and passes the exam, they are, and that's referring to CTE industry exams, and passes that exam, they are then considered graduation and transition ready. Number 2, option or course pathway number 2 is only available at Henderson County High School. If the student progresses through the high school and meets the 10th grade testing requirements, is not in a career pathway, but does not meet the ACT benchmarks at the 10th or 11th grade level, then they are not considered graduation and transition ready. In order for them to meet the new graduation requirement and transition readiness requirements, we will offer them the option of taking 2 CTE dual credit courses, either their junior year or their senior year. Preferably, we would like it for their junior year. And those courses will be, right, but what is that? Let's tell the people what is that. Financial literacy. And DLC, which is digital literacy 101. There it is, personal finance and digital literacy taught by Henderson County High School staff with dual credit offered by Henderson Community College. Those students must make at least a grade of a C in order for them to meet the graduation requirements and the transition readiness requirement. Number 3, is it available at both places? Now these are each one ors. They're not stackable. We're not talking about a student must meet all of these or combinations. The student progresses through the high school and meets the 10th grade testing requirements, is not in a career pathway, or does not pass an industry exam in the pathway that they may be enrolled in, does not want to take career readiness pathway option number 2, or takes career pathway readiness option 2 their junior year and does not meet the minimum requirement of a C in one or both of those dual credit courses. So that we've tried to figure out the many different options, but we've also tried to figure out ways to support students in case those chosen options didn't work out or they didn't earn minimum requirements. Then that student will be able to have the option of enrolling and taking an early childhood pathway that consists of 4 courses over the course of 1 year if they are a senior, or 2 years if they're a junior, depending on which year they chose this option. Once the student completes the 4 courses, they will then be considered graduation and transition ready. And you can see that's available at both schools.
The 4th option, also available at both schools, the student will have the option of being approved to complete the process of 500 hours of exceptional work experience. Upon completion and approval of the exceptional work experience, students will be considered graduation ready only. The 5th option is at both Henderson County High School and Central, a student can become transition and graduation ready by completing a KDE approved or Labor Cabinet approved apprenticeship. Number 6 can be accomplished at both Henderson County High School and Central Academy, completing a KDE approved alternative process as prescribed by a student's IEP. So what that means is the ARC can convene a meeting and then they can set the parameters for what that student needs. For example, in number 4, it talks about 500 hours of exceptional work experience. The ARC can determine what is applicable for that student. Is it 100 hours? Is it 200 hours? They have not given us any type of parameters of what is acceptable in those terms from the state. They've not given us any direction. They've just said that currently a student with an IEP through the ARC process can prescribe what that does look like. All right, before I move on, I would questions on those 6 options. Yes, sir. Yes and no. Correct. And what they're saying with exceptional work experience, it has to be in one single career field. It does not have to be in a CTE career field. For example, it can be a student that works at McDonald's, and it can be attained over the 4 years there in high school. But within that, there are a lot of different types of documentation that we have to have. Like one of them is you have to progress through positions at your job. So if you started out at dishwasher, you might end up at grill, the lead grill, which then you have to show documentation. You have to have reference checks from your employer and also from the principal and teachers. There's quite a bit of documentation that has to be shown through exceptional experience. We did look at that, the exceptional experience from the standpoint of co-op, but we did, if I remember exactly right, you could only in high school amass 386 hours of work experience through co-op. So there was no way that we could get to that 500-hour mark with a 3-hour co-op. The only way that we could ever get to that 500-hour is if we had 4-hour co-ops for all of our students in those areas. But in other words, have they said what that is? No, they have just said it has to be in one area, and it doesn't have to be in a CTE field. The intent of that was really if I owned a machine tool shop and my son started working in the machine tool shop when he was a freshman and is probably going to be he's a better machinist as a senior than most of the guys working for me, then we could count those hours. But that was the intent, but it only has to be in one specific area.
So if the kids that are in co-op, they only get to count the hours while school is in session, because most of those kids stay on that job till 5 o'clock or till quitting time.
Correct, and that's where there's apprenticeship, there's the paid, there's the underpaid. We can do some of that, but by the time they get to the co-op, they've already met an industry exam. So then that 500 hours doesn't even come into play in terms of they're already transition ready, which means they've already met the graduation requirement.
And my other question is, you said graduation requirement only, and everything else says transition and graduate. Can you have just graduate only?
Yes.
Okay.
They are the reason why we talk. Do I just need to shut up and let you talk? Okay. You can tell
On a roll.
I've been in this up to neck deep. They have originally, the commissioner and the Kentucky Board of Education came out and said you had to be transition ready, which you know that was the biggest hurdle for all of the high schools across the state of Kentucky. And when 2 weeks ago on December the 5th, they came back, and what they ended up doing is rolling back to, and if you look at the graduation requirements they have, you actually, if you look at the qualifiers are exactly what it takes, or half of what it takes to be transition ready. For example, if you look at all the transition ready items, then it's actually half. So if you see one that just meets the graduation requirement, for example, those 500 hours, that only gets you to graduation ready. That does not get you to transition ready. Now, they may include that in transition. I've heard rumors that they're going to change transition readiness between now and March 2. So
all has to do with schools that don't have the resources to offer the pathways that we have the options.
We are very fortunate
very blessed,
in Henderson County High School and Henderson County to have the resources.
Some of them can't offer 2, and we offer 16. Did I hear you say?
Most of you know Bob Lawson. He and I have been in communication every week. We had an hour phone conference the other day, and he was sharing with me, and I was sharing with him, and he's in a lot different place than we are, and he's really scratching his head. But he thinks that he can get some of this done through some of the options that we're putting out there too.
Is it true, Mr. Thompson, when you think of transition readiness, you think of state accountability
Correct.
numbers, and then obviously
Correct.
graduation is walking across the stage?
Correct. Dr. Sugg?
Are the co-ops working on this with you so that similarly, at least within the region, it looks similar from one school to another? When we talked about transients, these kids are going to be in trouble if it's not.
Correct. You want to speak to that because you've been to Grec and I've been there.
I would say that the co-ops are working toward this, but also I would say that I don't think I can say that these plans will look similar from district to district. Not really, not really. We've just been working to try to get together.
The concern there is even where we are, and if you're a River City, you've got kids coming in from Indiana that may not have any of this, and what's our plan for them?
That's why actually when you read through these plans, you'll see that we prefer to try to do this their junior year, but then we have the 2 dual credit option. We can get you 2 dual credit courses in CTE your senior year, but also we can get you 4 early childhood classes. We have that work. That's going to take up a bulk of your schedule, but we can get you 4 early childhood classes your senior year. What we're going to run into is when you come to us, say they enroll tomorrow and they're a senior. That's where we got to have that honest conversation with them and say, look,
I need to think about going back where you came from.
if you've got the option to stay in Evansville, you might want to think
Seen him
about
come
it.
2 weeks before school's out.
Yeah,
You know.
April.
And the other thing I want to say facetiously is, do you remember the banners that Ralph Baker put together for us for the accountability system? I'd love to see him try to boil this down to a banner.
And everything is on here is 10th grade. You have to meet all this by 10th grade. My math serves me correctly. That's a sophomore.
The assessments
The
by
assessment
by
that. What my devil's advocate part of me is saying, if you've met all these requirements and you've done it at 10th grade, what's to let you keep you from just slacking off your junior and senior year because you've already met these requirements? I can just fly on by. What's to keep you from doing that? I mean, I know you still have to graduate, but you're right now they have to do all this stuff by the time they're a senior. No, you're not. You're not done, but to the state you're done.
because you have to meet these graduation requirements.
Okay. No, the rest of this matters. Okay. There's a lot to absorb, and I know you all have gone through it. It's just in my mind going.
So, and an additional piece that we need to make sure that we want to share with you is that this will, in order to make this work, we will need some help from you, the board. At Central Academy, we estimate right now that we would need 2 new staff members, depending on how many students we would have currently and in the future, in the other readiness pathways, which are listed. Those new employees would be utilized for 1 to teach an early childhood pathway. We would have to apply for Central Academy to become a CTE unit, even though it might just have 1 pathway. And then we would use 1 person to serve as a job coach for students, someone to monitor those 500 hours of exceptional work experience that students might choose at Central Academy. That's our estimate. That's our best guess for right now. And I will say that going forward, in years forward, the way that Central Academy is actually structured with performance-based, all of this may make some shifts there in that category, in the way we know and perceive Central Academy to be as it is today. So I'll let Mr. Thompson tell you what the high school will need.
Under this current plan that we have set forth before you this evening, currently Henderson County High School anticipates needing to hire 2 to 3 new staff members, depending on how many students we would have currently. We have currently and in the future in other readiness pathways that we had listed earlier this evening. Those new employees would be utilized to teach the early childhood pathway, to teach those classes of the staff members. Also teaching the 2 new dual credit courses of the BAS 120 and DLC 101. Currently, our seat, I call it Ms. Stanley's heard me refer to this. I call it our carrying capacity. We all kind of know what carrying capacity. We have reached our carrying capacity in CTE. And in order to open up these other two classes, we have the staff currently to teach that are accredited to teach the dual credit courses, but we're going to pull them from their current teaching load to teach those two, which then we would have to have a replacement there. Then within the early childhood, we anticipate potentially 2 teachers there, one to potentially teach the 2-year program and one to really teach that senior year that's going to have, they're going to be tied up really those 4 periods of day to teach those seniors. So we anticipate having to request 2 to 3 new teachers depending on how well our students do on the ACT throughout the year as we monitor that and get those into their plans.
We also want to be clear that the graduation prerequisites, which mainly, if you'll think in terms of those, is the test that students have to take, that the revised statutes impact students entering the high school in 2020, in the year 2020, and 21. So that would be this year's current 7th graders. But the graduation qualifiers, which if you'll think in terms of academic readiness meeting the ACT benchmarks, and there are actually, the AP courses, or the transition, the career pathway transition and graduation qualifiers, those will come into effect for the students entering in 2019-20, the year 2019-20. So those are students that are currently, tonight, 8th graders. In addition to that, we also want to be clear and tell you that we don't want to wait to the last minute to get this right. Because you might say, well, if it impacts those freshmen coming in next year, then we've got a year or 2 to figure this out. Mr. Thompson and I are not good with the word wait. So we may have to tweak it. That's right. So I'm going to let Mr. Thompson tell you about our timeline.
And that's why we're coming to you this evening, because we're seeing this coming down the pike, but also letting you know that there could be some legislative changes. But the timeline currently, we would like to offer all 8 pathways for transition and graduation ready at Henderson County High School and 5 at Central Academy next year to all students to become transition ready by the end of their senior year. Each plan has, as described tonight, meets and exceeds the newest graduation requirements that will be mandatory by the state of Kentucky, starting with freshmen of the year 19 and 20. By implementing this plan starting next year for all students, it would allow Henderson County High School to discover any flaws in our system and also benefit all of our current students under the current graduation requirements to be considered transition ready under the current accountability requirement. So once again, waiting is not a key characteristic that I have. So I want to make sure that we have it worked out to where we can really get our current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, get them on that path to really iron out, to make sure we know what we're doing when these freshmen coming in really get to that 10th grade, take that test, take that ACT, and we can be prepared.
Ms. Morgan, I have a question. It says no action is required at this time. Do you have a clue when action will be required, and when would we have to approve those additional employees to make that possible? What time
Sure.
is that for both those?
We feel like Chad and or Mr. Thompson and Mr. Black will start scheduling in January and February. And so we anticipate in January bringing back to you a policy change. But tonight we wanted to just give you some information, reassure you they have spent countless hours, amount of time together at the high school putting together a plan for our kids to be successful. It is so much more than us just thinking that we're getting a ding on our accountability. Our kids will not graduate. And so I feel like in January we'll start a plan of action from the board by bringing a policy back to you for first reading and then February 2nd reading.
And the change to the personnel or the change to the
Right. I would put that together in January, February in a form of memo to you all so that we're ready to hire in April, May to be prepared for next year.
And the way that all
Go ahead.
works is we give the ACT Cambridge to our sophomores. We're going to give it in January, so we can use that as a predictor of where do our juniors, where do our current sophomores that are going to be juniors, do we need to get them in the dual credit? Do we need to put those in the early childhood? Are they going to be academically ready? We don't have to worry about those. Are they going to be considered preparatory and take the industry exam? But also we're going to give the ACT to our juniors. As soon as we get that back, they're going to be seniors. So who needs to go in the 2 dual credit courses? Who needs to take those 4? And that's going to be the difficult piece for us because they really don't have to do that to graduate. But once again, go back to the relationships that we have with our kids, and we're going to impress on them that it's critical that you become transition ready. So yes, the spring.
And I also prefer to wait till January, February for board approval for additional staff because our finance director also has to work. That's 4 to 5 additional people, and that's going to be a minimum of $50,000, usually more, $50,000. So we're looking at $200,000 to $250,000 expenditure that we have to have some time looking into our budget as well. So it'd be January or February.
It was also noted in there someplace that the state has not allocated any money for sophomores to take this ACT this year. Okay. Just note to the community, we're having to do all of this with no help from the state. Add 5 more people and add another set of tests to help us. Everybody talk to your legislatures, please. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
I'm going to say it out loud. I just whispered, if we had a newspaper here, maybe the community would understand. I really am saddened that we don't have, the coverage that we need for issues like this that are so complex, and the community has no idea this is coming down the pike.
We need to do another round of, what did we have when we were working on our nickel? Community forums.
Right. And we had actually planned to start that communication plan tonight. After the board meeting, we have a parent link drafted to send out to parents to say, hey, acknowledge we're aware, we have a plan, the board has heard them, especially our 8th grade parents, be ready to listen to communications that we're going to have and meetings that we're going to have scheduled in January and February. But seeing how it'll probably be a little later, I might send the parent link out tomorrow by the time we finish the meeting tonight. Might be a little late to go out tonight, but yes.
Thank you all both for your hard work. We know it's a lot. We appreciate it. Okay. Moving on to I need a sandwich now. Salary schedule comparisons, Miss Cindy?
Okay, you had information about 3 companies that Ginger and I spoke with regarding conducting a salary comparison. The costs for the 3 companies range anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000. So what I want to do tonight is ask for your guidance and how you would like for us to proceed with this, and what sort of budget do you think is appropriate to allocate? Mr. Waller?
I guess I was the one to ask this because it's been about 20-some years since we had a group called Hay come in here. They've been purchased or sold off, but they looked at all of our various salary schedules, positions, and comparisons because we're getting at a point in time that, our we may be losing key people to private sector, and I just want to make sure we're competitive in what we're doing and that our monies are allocated sit here and listen that's key to this this community. So, you know, I kind of like the Hanover Resource Group, but I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'd leave
They're
that
pretty
decision up-
persistent.
Huh?
They're pretty persistent. Their presentation was pretty detailed.
Detailed, comprehensive, and covered. But again, I'm not going to make that decision. You folks would need to be
Yeah.
working with whoever. I would just say that we need to look at it.
I agree.
That's why I asked you to do.
I think whatever we get the biggest bang for a buck, but it looks like they would do more. Looks like they would do more for the whole year. They wouldn't just do one thing and then stop. You would still have their resources to
As long as the time
continue.
is-
And if you decided to keep it for the next year, for comparisons, you could. No, too much money.
Well, my only question would be, is it, like, will we get the information we need in 1 year? Like I would hope.
Takes about 12 weeks for them to do the salary comparison survey, and then they can move on to any other project that we designate.
That you want, okay.
Mhm. Yes. In the 40,000, if we agree to it in the next couple days, they knock 5,000 off. Well, I'd like a recommendation of what you, if you feel it's appropriate to continue, we'll continue and decide which company to go with.
Curious if, what are we going to do with information as a board? I mean, are we going to, because nothing's worse than doing a study and finding out someone is underpaid and nobody does anything about it.
Then we contingent upon us to make the changes on the salary schedules and make sure that we're competitive with, so we don't lose those people. I mean, that was my position all along, was that if we did the salary schedule and comparison and understand, because, you know, when you begin looking at some of the positions, we lost some key people here, and this is several years ago, of maintaining equipment for, in our maintenance group, and then we can lose them to all kinds of private sectors in HR. I mean, teachers that finally had enough, they're not getting paid, you know, the supplements that could be from studies in outside groups. So, I mean, I'm just looking for the information. And then we would have to be making the decision on where we can put salary increases or changes.
Possible charter schools that could pop up in Kentucky too.
I'm sorry?
Or possible charter schools that could pop up in Kentucky too.
Very well.
Not the plans that we've got. And that
But
answer your
again,
question, Russ?
I mean, without the information, we don't know what we can or can't or should or shouldn't do.
5%.
It looked like the main difference, and Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, the main difference is one is more comprehensive in their services, even though it costs a little more. So my preference would be to look at that one pretty carefully, because there may be a lot of other things that we could task them to do, where it looked like the Hannah group was going to isolate that
Only gonna do
that one
salary.
task. Right. And once you get into that study, I've never done one, obviously, but once you get into that, I'm thinking there may be offshoots that would need further study. And so my concern is if you go with the more narrow scope, then you're going to have to come back and maybe pay them again or another group to come in and do another study on the periphery.
Wanted to get your input. Okay.
Okay. Thank you all. Moving on to new business. What did you say? Teasing. Steve Steiner's going to do the calendar.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Farmer's not
That's why you're the best in the state.
not available for us this evening, so she asked if I'd fill in there. Do want to let you know that committee met, and Mr. Waller is part of that committee for the school calendar. They met in November, the end of November, had several people listed from parents to different people in the school system as well. They looked at, if I'm speaking wrong, Mr. Waller, you can correct me, but the way I understand it, they looked at 3 calendar options and came up with the one that was presented to you all in your board packet that is pretty similar to the ones that we've had over the last few years And I'm supposing each one of you kind of looked at that, but the opening day would be August the 6th. First day for students is August the 7th. There is a fall break, and that's October 7th through the 11th. There is a spring break, and that is April 6th through the 10th. The last day scheduled at this time, pending weather, is May the 18th. And those things were listed in your packet. Was one other thing I thought that I needed to highlight. But
that keeps the fall break and spring break the same week that we determined.
Thank you. That's what it was. What the answer there was that DPPs often meet, regional DPPs, Director of People Personnel, and this calendar fell in line, fall and spring breaks with those around us, different counties around us. So we don't always agree, but it seemed like this calendar, based on where it started and ended, seemed to hit everyone just about right on the fall and spring breaks. So they all seem to have the same fall, spring break in the region. And that would be, our request would be to get the approval tonight, our first reading approval, and have a second reading in December. And after tonight, we would publicize that as first reading approved through Ms. Megan and some of the social medias, and then come back with a second reading in January and have that solidified.
Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the school calendar.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Take your, Sally beat you to it, Mr. Mike.
I'm sorry.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Now then, moving on to district improvement plan, Ms. Kim.
Just anticipation. Thank you all for having me this evening. You do have a memo that was provided to you that has explained the process that we have gone through for our district improvement planning with regards to the expectations from the state and the timelines for items that are due. It's basically in 4 phases, and different things are due at different times. We are currently in phase 3, which does include district and school improvement plans and other components of that. What you have this evening are several of those components, which the parts of it that really are considered the district improvement plan. You have a copy of the, these are again all draft versions of the executive summary, of the continuous improvement diagnostic, of our needs assessment, of the superintendent gap assurance, as well as the actual what we call kind of the goal builder diagnostic that has all of our goals, objectives, strategies, and activities. The process included a meeting on November 28th that included SBDM council members. We also had community members. We had teachers. We had administration. We had HCHS students who participated in the process, looked at some data, talked about our needs, talked about areas for growth and improvement, and have come up with the things that are on that goal builder document. For the 2018-19 school year, there are 6 required goals. We have to have a goal in proficiency, 1 in separate academic indicator, 1 in gap, growth, transition readiness, and graduation rate. So all of those are included for your consideration at this time. Tonight is the first reading of this, and if you all approve this or have questions or comments, we will definitely go back and make those adjustments and changes as needed. We will also, between this time and the next meeting, post this for public review and comment as well if we have any of that information and make any necessary adjustments. It is continuous improvement, and so although these things have to be submitted to the state by a deadline, we can always make changes. It is considered a living document. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm guessing this can get changed just like because of the transition part of this. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We will make changes as the legislature makes
Tells you
any
to.
changes
Okay,
as well.
cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If I hear no questions, I'll look for a motion to approve this first reading. Thank you, Dr. Sugg. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. First reading done. Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Thank you.
Moving on to contract with Henderson County Sheriff's Department. Ms. Beth?
actually kind of a follow-up of something that was before the board several months ago when the board authorized funds for hiring 2 SROs to be placed at the middle school. So since that, at that time, the board kind of set some parameters, and we worked with Steve Gold and with the Sheriff's Department to kind of memorialize the agreement that will allow us to hire, well, we won't hire them, the Sheriff's Department will hire 2 retired officers potentially, but they'll be certified. They go through the SRO program, but they will be employees of the Sheriff's Department placed in the schools. One of the good things about it is that with the Sheriff's Department, the school system has a little more input in the selection process. We included that in our agreement just so that, you know, when candidates are applying, that, you know, we can have a say-so as to, okay, do we think that they'll be a good fit? One of the things I learned in the process is just how lean the Sheriff's Department, their operating budget is, and they have strict controls over their expenditures. And so the agreement's written in terms of the employees will be employed by the SROs will be employed by the Sheriff's Department. They will then bill the board for expenses. We had talked in terms of a salary. They don't, because of the way their system is set up, they don't do it that way. So it's an hourly employee, and so we're bringing it back to you. If you have any questions, the fiscal court has looked at this same agreement, has given it their blessing. We just wanted to make you aware of exactly what we negotiated.
Is the dollar amount per hour commensurate to what the SROs at the high school are, or is it lower? Okay. Okay. Whatever is on their salary schedule. Okay, I understand. That's fine. Any questions for that? I'm the one, I asked for an update on this, so I knew we had approved it, just didn't know where we were on this at this point.
And we have our officers will be trained on January 3rd and 4th, and they will be in our schools that following Monday, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Monday,
Great.
7th, right.
Great.
I will say this, we, working with the Sheriff's Department and with Steve Gold, they are really excited about partnering with the district, and really, you know, we had a lot of details to work out, but it's something that they feel really strongly about supporting the schools.
This came out of that community meeting a long time ago from that. Okay, great. Do you need action on this, or you just, you're going to enact this yourself? Okay, just information. Okay, thank you very much, Beth. I appreciate it. And we appreciate the Henderson County Sheriff's Department working with us. Thank you so much. Okay, JAG opportunity. Mr. Steve.
Ma'am, I'll be brief, but do want to kind of share as an interesting situation. Ms. Stanley and I went to a chamber Kindle lunch on December the 5th. And that day she found out through connections about this JAG opportunity. By the time Monday came around, December the 10th, she had made connections with everybody to make connections with, and as far as people in the district, and had somebody at a training on Monday, December the 10th. So from first knowledge of JAG to Monday and Tuesday having somebody trained, we had gotten it done. She had gotten it done. And JAG stands for Jobs for America's Graduates, and it's a program that's been around for quite a while. Just flying somehow under the radar, because none of our people, none of us had, okay, thank you. None of the people that are still here, Stephen, appreciate Stephen still working with us on the sound. Anyways, it's an excellent opportunity.
Turned off your mic too.
Yeah, it's coming down. This was a really cool program that's been around for a long time that helps students most at need get to those transition spots. And so we're going to have the opportunity to partner with JAG. And I'm sorry, I'll give you these. I'll pass these out in just a second. But it's an opportunity for us to work with them, and we selected Central Academy to pick out some students, and we will hire a teacher to work with the JAG program. It's a reimbursement deal, so we're going to kind of work with them and combine with them, and we will continue to talk to Miss Cindy about the opportunities that are positive that come out of that, so that she can. Thank you. We have to do benefits. Yes. You're. No, we don't think you're awful. We think you're thorough. We like you being around.
I'll take her all day, every day.
So let me just say that from a happen to, and I'm not one that likes, well, let me rephrase that. There are certain times that we do things that I think, I don't know about this. But when we went to that meeting that day at the right time, you talked to the right person. And from that point forward, from then to 5 days later, having somebody in a 2-day training that covered us so that we could get into the program, because if we didn't get in now, we were going to be lucky to get in May. As soon as we start asking questions and everybody else starts calling us and saying, hey, how'd you get in that? How'd you get in that? And I said, shh, I can't tell you. My boss did it. So it's an invite-only thing, and I'm sorry. There were several other districts that called and said, hey, how'd you get in? Because we want to go. Because part of that thing, that transition readiness stuff that Chad was telling you about, and Miss Jo, they are working, because the governor really loves this program. They are working to make sure that this JAG program becomes a transition 500-hour checkoff option. So it is a very good possibility that will take place. We're excited about it from beginning to end. Here we are, and now I just wanted to let you know that we're forging on, and it's going to be a great thing. It's going to be a good thing, and they're extremely detail-oriented, and they will follow the numbers of who you ask to be in your program, and you have to continue with that student 12 months after they graduate and be able to report back where they are and what they're doing. So it's a pretty intensive program, highest at risk. And they wanted us to pick between 30 and 55, I believe, and had some specifics on things, but we got on conversations and then driving conversations and then other conversations, and by Friday afternoon, she had gotten us a place and then said, all right, it's either you or it's somebody else that's going to this thing. And so we found somebody else. But it's probably a good thing. Well, she did a good job getting us in, and then once we get in, we're excited about it, and Central's excited about the program. So that's just information. I'll pass these down so you can see it.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Moving on to scheduling the January 2019 board meeting. Ms. Morgana?
It just simply is that. The third Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and so in the years past, we've always scheduled our regular board meeting on a different evening. So that's why we put that on the agenda. And if we look at the next item, set the superintendent mid-year review, we can do that in the same evening. If maybe we could start about 5:15 in a special meeting from 5:15 to 5:45, and then regular meeting at 6. So if you all could look at your calendars and make a suggestion as to when you want to set the January board meeting. The 21st, Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Can we do the 22nd?
We
do
can.
we usually do the next day, or do we keep it on a Monday?
We've done both. We've done the 22nd, and then I think in some years we've done the 28th. The following Monday.
Looking at your calendar, does anyone have a preference, whether the 28th or the 22nd? Wes? You fine with the 22nd? Miss Tracy?
Doesn't care.
What, Sally? I was being polite. Tracy, do you care?
No.
Mr. Mike?
I'll be here whenever you decide to have the meeting.
Okey doke. 22nd. Okay, so we need to set that by action. So we need a motion.
I make a motion that we set our January board meeting for January 22nd. Have a special board
Tuesday.
meeting prior to our 6 o'clock meeting, starting at 5:15.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
What?
Oh, no. I can't say that again.
Mr. Haynes, did that day work for you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I was like, what? They're all up here chit-chatting. I don't know what they're talking about. Kirk, will that work for you? Thank you. Okay, did I have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Get me stopped. Okay, and so we set the superintendent's mid-year review at the same time, 5:15. Okay, BG4s and BG5s for BG 17-215 East Heights.
17-215 has been completed, so I'm asking for approval for the BG4 and the BG5.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Pay it. Go on. Consent agenda. Listed on the consent agenda, approve school activity fundraiser request, approve shortened days for 2 special education students, approve student overnight trip request, bid recommendations, school improvement plans, retiree resolutions, and grant applications. Any of those items need to be pulled or discussed. Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda. Finally, to the financials. Miss Cindy.
The treasurer's report for the month of November includes total receipts of $16,260,819, total expenses of $7,170,903, for a net increase in all funds of $9,089,916. Any questions on treasurer's report?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I respectfully request your approval of the treasurer's report as presented this evening by Cindy Cloutier.
Thank you. I look for a motion to approve the treasurer's report as requested. Thank you. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. West. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to paid warrant.
Warrant report includes the period of November 20th through December 17th and has total of $2,995,382.33. Any questions on the paid warrants?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I respectfully request your approval of the warrant report as presented tonight by Cindy Cloutier.
Look for a motion to approve the paid warrant report.
I make a motion that Miss Cindy pays.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Be it known, we have received personnel actions, and no action is required by us. Thank you all for coming. We do need to go to an executive session
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
per KRS 61.8101F for discussions or hearing which may lead to the discipline of a student. I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going into executive session.